Welcome back, everybody, to part 3 of my entire Amazing Spider-Man collection. This is going to be the last short box we go through, and there's only going to be one final video. After this, we're going to move on to the slabs, and like I mentioned before, we're going to do all of my Amazing Spider-Man slabs, as well as any slabs I have that are just Spider-Man related, since I don't have that many, and they're not going to warrant their whole other video, so I might as well just lump them in with the rest. This box is going to be the rest of what I have of Volume 1, as well as the annuals and a couple giant size I think I have in there. I do have an okay chunk of Volume 2, along with some of the more modern stuff. That's mostly just awesome covers I like, so I've been picky and choosy about it. I'm overall trying to get out of variants, but for Spider-Man and Batman, if there's still some pretty sweet variants, I'm targeting those. So we're not going to include that. This is just going to be everything I have for my initial Volume 1 run that I have. So without further ado, let's get into this last box. Alright, so this box is going to start off with issue 339. And a lot of these ones are some of my favorite books in the run. Because again, I'm a 90s kid. This is what I saw primarily when I could finally afford to go down, grab some comics. I mentioned at the last box, a lot of that McFarlane, Bagley, Larson, that's kind of what Spider-Man meant to me growing up. So a lot of the covers we're going to see in this box are going to be some of my personal favorites. And saying this box is in 2 packs, so it shouldn't even take too long. We have issue 340. Again, a lot of these ones, I love these books. These books are incredible to me. 341. Just everything about the styling of it. And same as I mentioned before with some of McFarlane's, 342, I just really enjoy how Scorpion was drawn on the majority of these books. It just, all the detail, how they put his costume to the full use that they could. Really love all these books right here. Alright, then we got 343. I love the coloring that they used on these too. A lot of the colors for these books are also pretty incredible. So whoever did the coloring on these, kudos to you. 344. I believe this is the first appearance of Cardiac we have here, and I believe Cletus Cassidy. Then we have 345, an awesome classic cover. The way that red Spider-Man suit just pops off this yellow page right in the forefront. Really love that one. So a lot of these ones, like 346, while not being that old, are longtime classics already. These books, and this right here, just everything about the intro for the animated series, how can it not just bring up that nostalgia for you? 347, and as I mentioned before, just any cover growing up that had Venom on it was a special place in my heart. 348. 349. Like I mentioned, McFarlane, Bagley, Larson, those 3 artists. 350 are kind of what I associate Spider-Man most. I know you have Romita, Ditko, but for me growing up, these were kind of the artists that made me grab these books as I found them. 351, another awesome Tri-Sentinel cover here. 352, just a nice, clean, wide open blue sky classic Spidey Nova cover. 353. 354. 355. 356. Gonna say, and you'll see when we get along with a lot of the Carnage stuff. 357. That those ones in particular are just, every time you see them, you just want to buy them, even if you already have a copy. 358. That one has a pretty cool centerfold pinup in it, too. 359. 360. Like this one right here. This is another book that, even though it's not that new, it is one of my all-time favorites in the Amazing Spider-Man run. The way you have the perspective lines, like these two are flying at Spider-Man, you got Venom and Carnage drawn in pure Bagley goodness right there, coming off that page after Spider-Man. That amazingly dark yellow cover that just makes Venom and Carnage look that much cooler. This is one of my, again, you'll see a few of these, but a lot of this right here is everything that I loved growing up about Spider-Man, that I would see this book and pick it up almost every single time. I actually just finally sold a bunch of extras I had because I realized I didn't need that many. And we have 363, that not to the same extent, but still an extremely classic cover. Yes, you have the floating heads, but I think it works for it here. Now you have almost like that lime green that's going in tandem with them that I don't think works as much as the yellow, but still a highly effective classic cover. 364, a little shocker action. 365, which is either the first preview, first appearance. It was first Spider-Man 2099, but now that the movie Across the Spider-Verse has come out, a lot of people are throwing more money at Spider-Man 2099 #1 because it's his actual book and he's right there on the cover, but luckily I have both. 366, pretty cool Red Skull. Oh, there we go. Didn't want to come out on that one. 367. And they really utilize having as many characters with Spider-Man as possible on a lot of these covers through this era. 368. The Spider Slayers again. We're back in that arc. 369. Pretty cool Electro cover. Another one that I've had since I was a wee young kid. Because again, I loved how Scorpion was drawn on this. I loved what they were doing with the Spider Slayers on top of it. I love how they drew Black Cat during this era. This book is one of my favorites and one of the first ones I've ever owned. So again, same thing. That's just my lifelong copy. 371. More Spider Slayer action with 372. And this is the book, 373. And I'm not going to remember the number, but when I was doing, I forget if it was my Batman run or my Detective Comics run, there is a very similar cover to this. And someone actually commented in the comments that it's Batman hanging, I believe that one was film reels. Same exact pose, same styling, everything. Just this is Spider-Man and his webbing. And I forget, and I believe somebody commented, which one came first, but there is no way they are not meant to. One of them is meant to pay homage to the other one. So, really cool. Another all-time classic Venom cover. 374, another one of my early favorites I've had since I was a kid. It's amazing how many of these. 375, even more awesomeness. How many of these are still, I know they're newer, but are in pretty good grade that I've had on me. Because as a kid, I spent a little bit of time moving back and forth, and I kept a lot of these piled flat in almost like a milk crate to regular boxes. 376. So looking at them now as we're going through them, it's amazing to me how many of these still stayed in good shape for how poorly I had them stored and how often I had to move them. 377, pretty cool Cardiac cover. And here we go. So, like with most people, 378, another one of the all-time greats. Bagley was firing on all cylinders right here. I've seen some of his more recent covers. Some of them look pretty good. Some, I don't know if it's the colorist, if it's whoever's inking it. Some of his stuff right now looks a little less detailed. Like, he's always had a little bit of an exaggerated look, but you can tell on this, all of the shading and the detail he used to put into it on top of his style. And he always heavily played with that foreshortening perspective, where you had that superhero coming at you big and bold, you know, tiny limbs in the background. So I don't know if it's just I've only been seeing the wrong covers. I don't know, like I said, if it's the inker or the colorist working with him, or if he's just kind of banged out so many covers that he's not putting as much time into each one. Probably is extremely busy, but when he was firing on all cylinders, like this one right here, 378, in addition to the Maximum Carnage being my favorite run in this era that I was a little kid, again, I'd grab everything Venom, everything Carnage. That run was extremely cool for me. And as a kid, it took me a little bit to figure out, and I was a little annoyed why I had part 1 and part 7, even though I got the next issue. I didn't understand when I was a kid that they spanned it and broke it up across titles. So it's not that you just have to read the titles, and in order to get the full story, you have to read the titles to get the actual part 1, part 2, part 3. Like Scott Snyder right now will do a big bombastic run, but there's like 20 tie-ins that you don't have to read, they say, but you kind of have to read them in order to get the full gist of what's going on. Whereas a story like this, you have to grab that next issue, no matter what title it's in, if you want the full, complete story to any degree. But, alright, done with a little tangent. 379. Again, all of these covers knocked it out of the park. I love Demogoblin. I love Doppelganger. I have his first full appearance anyway, of him as well, and a nice 9.8. These characters that are a little bit more obscure down the rung, those are the ones, like a lot of obscure Batman, I've been tracking down their first appearances. Issue 380. Again, just classic after classic. Working them all, marionettes like puppets, caught up in his symbiotic strings. One of the all-time great Carnage covers right here. Again, these books, I have also, in addition to this, just that entire run put together of Maximum Carnage separately. 381. You can never go wrong once you start throwing Hulk into the mix. And then this book, 382, even though there's nothing real significant about it, this book I saw, my uncle had this hung up on his wall in a frame. And he's in graphic design too, so I don't know if he grew up with this one, if he just appreciated the art, but as a kid, every time I came over, I would look at this one on the wall and think how cool it must be to have that old original comic right there. Meanwhile, it's not actually that old, but so this one was really, really awesome for me to finally pick up on my own in the wild as an adult and have a copy of my own after spending so much time looking at it, hung up on the wall, all framed up with a few of his other ones. So that's another book that's just kind of extra special to me. 383. 384. Overall, not one of the greatest covers, but I do love that orange they used on that. There's not too many orange covers. 385. 386. 387. Really, really like this cover. I like how it's, I was going to say how it's shot. How it's drawn kind of reminds me of the McFarlane Lizard. Same thing, just kind of taking hold of Spidey, taking up the whole page. 388. 'So these ones here, like 389, still Bagley, but even a lot of these ones I feel like got a little less detailed as it went on. 390, where, not to discount it, but a lot of like the 390 to 400, something about them just looks a little cheaper to me. 391, so I don't know if it's, like I said, the style of paper, he changed up and simplified his art style, if whoever inking didn't put as much detail in it, but a lot of these ones, 392, you can very distinctly tell that they are Bagley. But they just, like I said, there's almost like a little bit of a lower quality, little cheapness to it, where they feel maybe it's a little bit more exaggerated. Like I said, I can't put my finger on it, on what shifted, but I distinctly enjoy his earlier work more than even the end of his Spider-Man run here that I have, in addition to the new ones. 393. And like I said, and he still can put out some amazing covers, because I have a couple of Volume 2 that he did, 394, which again makes me think that maybe it's more of a time constraint. And he's been in the business for so long, probably doing so many things, that some covers get the rush treatment, $3.95. And then other covers, whether he has more time or they mean more to him personally, maybe he just puts in that little bit of extra Bagley effort again. $3.96. So because all the elements, like the bold color background, the line work in terms of like that character coming at you is drawn in, so everything about his style is still there. That's why, again, it's been a little bit of annoying me to try to figure out and put my finger on it. $3.97. Kind of readjust the box here because we're already getting to the end of it. $3.99. And I know I mentioned that I'm trying to only do up until 400, but for Volume 1, I have a little bit past that. Not much to see, but 400, you have that classic Greystone cover. 403, extremely low-grade copy, because this is one I had as a kid that I read repeatedly. And I think there was just something about it that where it was higher in the run, for some reason, I didn't take care of it as much as I did the other ones. 407. Cool Sandman right there. Then we have issue 500, classic Campbell cover right here. I was going to say, some of these next ones coming up, like 503. I know it's not a popular storyline, but these books right here were other ones that I was actually grabbing myself. 504. I forget what it was, but there was, it might have been like Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, but some stores used to have these, so technically newsstands, not actually like an outside newsstand rack, but I would grab these from the store in their little newsstand racks, 507, hence the newsstand right there, but be all to heck because I read this book over and over, and these are a little bit of also what inspired me to want to go into graphic design. 508. I would open these up, look at the artwork, and try to duplicate it myself, kind of teaching myself to draw using a lot of these. Like this book right here is another one that is one of my personal favorites in the run, just because this is another one of the earlier books I was able to grab, 509, that meant a lot to me. And this one, as a kid, I thought this was one of the coolest covers I had ever seen. The musculature and the detailing and the shading on Spider-Man right here, he is jacked in this. Like, he looks like he's as strong as you know he is, but it's showing right now. This is the kind of artwork, as a kid, I looked at that and said, that's what I want to do. I want to draw for a living, and I want to make things as awesome as that right there. So, this is the book that kind of instilled that in me. And again, nothing crazy key-wise, it's not expensive, but just the artwork and the shading and the detail on Spider-Man, I read that book 100 times as a kid growing up trying to draw that. Then we have 514. And then next are some variant covers that stuck out to me. 568. And because I was trying to not really go past 400, I don't even have the regular versions, I only have the variants. 569, another pretty awesome Venom cover right there. And that one's pretty hard to see, I know, especially with the glossy bag I got. Issue 570. $571. $572, pretty awesome bullseye cover. These ones I think I grabbed, I love that they were doing just the headshots of everybody, a new headshot on each cover, which is why I grabbed them. 573, pretty cool Scorpion right there, the symbiote coming up at him. Then we have 575. These ones I found in an antique mall that I thought were really cool and stood out to me, and they had a pretty good chunk of them. So same thing, anything that jumped out past 400, I'm not a completist, I was being choosy. 576, kind of Spidey giving it back to him. Then you have 617, big jump right there, but this is another awesome cover that just stood out to me. I love how the rhino's coming through the book. Issue 700, a classic book already, given it's not that old, but still amazing, made up of all of the different little Spider-Mans and Venoms. Then you have 798. I believe this is the first appearance of the new Red Goblin now. I'm going to skip a bit, because there's actually a couple copies in there. Along with a variant cover. I believe this is Crane right here. Clayton Crane, another 798. Issue 799, Red Goblin right there. Unless there was a variant of the one before, that might be the first cover appearance. I was going to say, there's so many variants, it's hard to say. But another $7.99, another Clayton Crane cover right here. These ones, I don't hunt down his artwork, but when I see ones I like, I definitely snag them, and these Amazing Spider-Man ones were definitely ones I liked. So that is actually it for the regular books. So now we'll get into the annuals. Like I said, I don't have too many past 400 because I was only trying to do up to 400. But let's kick it off with annual number 3, Spidey versus Hulk right here. Pretty cool cover. I still have to get annual 1, the first Sinister 6, but haven't got around to it because I'm still trying to snag a lot of the actual first appearances of the members that make it up. Then we have number 13. Number 17. I say in annuals, I grab them if I find them, but I don't hunt them as much. I'm not actually a big annual guy. Number 18. Unless there's something crazy about it, like it's just an amazing cover or some key significance, I'm not as high on the annuals as I am just the regular run. 19. Pretty cool MJ cover. 22, I believe this is the first appearance of Speedball, who's on the cover right here. And actually, for some reason, have 2 copies. I probably bought one, forgot I did, and then just figured I'd buy another one just in case and figure it out after. Number 20. Well, if that is 20, that means I had the Speedballs a little bit before it. Alright, so I'll have to shift that one, because it looks like issue 20. So let's tuck that back in there. 23, pretty cool She-Hulk Abomination cover right here. Number 26. The next one is another one I've had since I was a wee child. 28, another one of my favorite Carnage versus Spidey covers. Again, I love that yellow. That just makes the characters come off, that contrast, that makes them pop off the book that much more. Love this book. This is, again, like I said, this annual right here is one where I would happily buy the annual every time. I love this book. All right, and that's all I have for the annual. So now we're going to go into a little bit of Giant Size with Giant Size Spider-Man and Master of Kung Fu. This is number 2. And then, again, same as what happened before, I have 2 copies of number 5, Giant Size Spider-Man and the Man-Thing. Another one of my favorite covers. Giant Size, I'm more keen to hunt down than I am the annuals, but it still takes a backseat to everything main run related. But this one, I just really love the colors. I love Man-Thing. I love that you have a lizard with the lizards attacking right here. Awesome book. And I have 2 copies of that one. Both are in pretty decent shape. They're not near mint, but they're not mid-grade. Like I said, they're probably in that very fine range. And then the last book we're going to show off today is number 6, Giant Size Spider-Man, guest starring the Human Torch. And this book will wrap up the final short box. There we have it, everybody. We finally got through all of these short boxes. The next video, we're going to get to what I'm sure most of you are waiting for, which is the slabs. And then that'll be our final Amazing Spider-Man video. After that, like I said, I'm pretty excited. I have 2 of my DC Silver Age First Appearance upgrades that I'm excited to show off. I mentioned that when it's realistic, a lot of the showcase Justice League of America, Brave and the Bold, less Justice League, because a lot of those are a little bit more expensive, but at least showcase Brave and the Bold and random titles. I'm trying to target at least somewhere in the 9s for those first appearances. I was able to do that with 2 more, so I'm going to have kind of a upgrade update video. And by that point, I also have a mini haul, and I have 2 new big additions in terms of Silver Age first appearances, both Batman related, that I'm excited to show off with you guys. So thank you guys for checking into 4 long boxes worth of Spider-Man. Next time we'll get into the slabs, and thank you for tuning in.